Okay, so welcome to creating, uploading, editing, and deleting content in Blackboard today. So this workshop is a 15-minute workshop, and it is going, we're going to go through information pretty quickly, but we're going to cover a variety of aspects of building content in Blackboard, including learning modules and folders, and then also the various steps to actually building content, adding items, creating items, HTML files that you can edit in Blackboard, to uploading documents from your computers, to also files, images, web links, and then also YouTube, as well as other third-party resources. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. If questions come up, please feel free to type in the chat, and I will go from there. So welcome. The first slide that I'm going to go through is actually the objectives of the workshop. So I always do objectives from the facilitator side, and outcomes are for the participant side. So as a facilitator, I'm going to identify various features of the Blackboard Build Content menu, and then determine options available within the Build Content menu to help you out in terms of what you would like to use, and then create content as examples in Blackboard on the Build Content menu. And then participants at the end of this workshop, the goals or outcomes for you would be to determine the media use for your course development, to differentiate learning modules from the folder structure, and to demonstrate how to create materials for course construction in Blackboard. Now, you won't need to demonstrate them in this actual workshop, but you will be able to demonstrate to yourself as well as colleagues, or as you're working with instructional design staff, your knowledge of the ability to create materials. So again, if you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to write it in the chat box, and we will respond as soon as possible. Really quickly, I'm just going to start out by kind of going over a little bit of the STCC online course template. So we are making suggestions for faculty to utilize this template that we are starting to construct, and work with faculty to design, so that we have a common language and a common layout for our Blackboard navigation. The course menu is on the far left-hand side of the screen. And really quickly, just to let you know that, and I'm going to close my email. Okay. So, so the course menu on the far left-hand side of the screen, the top level is going to be information that is related, pertinent to the class, weekly announcements, mail, course content, course information. Course content is implying your course materials, your weekly units, subunits, those kind of things as well. Then your course information is anything that is considered the umbrella materials, which students would not need to access weekly, but throughout the course would need that as a common reference point. Then the following section would be quick links, which is quick access to course tools in Blackboard. This is specific to your course. We start with standards such as the discussion board, assignments, exams, and quizzes. Then the third section is student resources. This is going to be the area where the My Grade section is, which this demonstrates to the students as they progress through the class, the grades that are posted within Blackboard for them to view and then to track. The Blackboard Help for Students is a link directly to the Blackboard Help resources that are available for students to be able to use Blackboard, as well as in the future materials that would be specific. Then the last one is going to be campus information. It currently has the STCC website on it, and this is college and program information as well. And so if you have any information that you need to put into your courses or your department or your school, this would also be a section of the course menu that those kind of items could be placed. So I just wanted to go over that template. You're going to see it shortly in a few seconds, and just to give you some reference. Additionally, I am going to also go over the navigation functions, so the basic features in Blackboard. This will just take a few seconds as well. The first quick overview of the navigation is just that on the screen, you will see a 1, 2, and 3. The 1 area is going to be your course menu. The 2 area is going to be your content area. And the 3rd area is course management, or often called the control panel. The first section, number 1, is visible to both students and faculty, and these are the links that students will use to navigate through your course materials. When you click on a link in the course menu, you will be taken to that particular area's content, and it will appear in the right-hand side or in the number 2 section of the screen. Additionally, the third section, course management, is only available and viewed by the faculty members, and that's based on your permission inside of Blackboard. Students cannot see anything in that lower half of the menu, which is the course management control panel, which includes performance review reports, things that are course content materials, and also grades and grading, the grade center as well as in there. So students never see this area. This is faculty only, but this is just to let you know that's another area where you'd be able to see many of the components of your class that aren't visible to students. The next really quick section that I want to go over is just a couple of things about, they call it the menu item option icon, and it has a lot of names. It's either the downward arrow, the chevron, it used to be called an action link, but the menu item option icon is the circle with the downward arrow that appears after the title link or the link in almost all content inside of Blackboard. You will see this downward arrow on the course menu in the course navigation section. You will see it within assignments, discussions, the quiz tool. So this downward arrow or chevron is a button that you either scroll over and a menu appears, or you click on it and a menu appears. This will give you additional functionality in terms of being to edit, to create, delete, or move content. So it's going to be one of your best friends today. So I just want to point out that that downward arrow has a name. It's technically menu item option icon, but you'll see downward arrow is usually what I refer to it as because it kind of makes the most sense. Additionally, for this particular workshop, we're going to focus on the content menu bar. Now, inside of Blackboard, there is an area that helps you kind of progress through the development of your class. Build content is what we're focusing in on today because we're talking about if you were to put weekly or unit material content in, you would be wanting to upload, create, you want to upload Word and PowerPoint information. You'd want to create a Word, create a editable HTML file. You might want to put a web link into your class or embed a YouTube video in there. So the build content area is going to be the focus of this workshop. As we progress through building your course, you'll also see that there's assessments, tools, and partner content links. Those happen when you've already started to build in your materials. Your assessments are going to be your assignments, tests, quizzes. Your tools are going to be basically all your communication tools in the class, anything from the mail tool to the discussion boards, the blogs, the journals, but also it's going to be any other additional third-party applications that might be associated. So you might see some of your textbook material information under the tools menu. And then partner content is going to be when you have a textbook and it's linked into your class. Sometimes that information shows up there. It also is where you could put the ISBN number for textbooks if you use them. That far button isn't frequently as used the first 3 hours, and today, like I said, we're going to focus on build content. With that said, like I said, we're going to do build content, and I'm going to focus on that menu right now. Well, actually, I'm going to stop for a really quick second, and I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to show you Blackboard. I know I might be speaking very New York fast, but if you could go ahead and tell me if everything makes sense so far. This might be a refresher for some, but I want to make sure I just want to cover the basics while I'm switching over. Okay. So thank you very much. So this next screen that you're going to be seeing, and I'm actually just going to start us from the beginning. When you first come into Blackboard here at Springfield Technical Community College, you're going to see that course menu that's going to appear on the left-hand side. I am in a faculty role right now, so I would see both the course menu as well as the course management control panel, and I will also see the content area. One really quick thing is that when you expand the window out, occasionally you will see that your menu collapses. So you might come into Blackboard and just see a page and not that course menu. If you notice on the far right side of the screen to the left, you yes, the far left side of the screen, you will see a gray area with an arrow pointing towards the right. In this circumstance, when you click on this button, it's going to then allow your content menu to be shown. You can also click that button again, and all you have to do is hover over that part of the screen and it will appear, and then you can collapse the window as well. So that's just to let you know, that's a quick thing with navigation we've been seeing it a lot. And a lot of times when you expand out a window, sometimes that automatically tries to collapse the window for you. Now, this main area is going to be your welcome area on your course menu, and today we're going to focus on your course content. So your course content is anything that is going to be weekly or unit content that students are going to go into each week, and they're going to access it for readings, discussions, assignments, those kind of things. And our big focus today is going to be on when we want to put content that is relevant to our course in there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on course content. And I have two examples of the type of structures that you can have. One structure that you can have in your online class or when using Blackboard, whether you're doing a web assist or a hybrid or an online class, is to have what are called learning modules. Learning modules afford you the opportunity to be able to have basically a table of contents. The table of contents will reside between the course menu on the far left and the content area on the far right. And so if you would like your students to be able to have a table of contents which they can then click through the various links, then what will happen is as students click through the links on the table of contents, the materials will show up on the right-hand side as you click through them. Now, my example doesn't have any content at the moment, so you won't be seeing anything populate. But as we go through this activity, this presentation, you will see stuff start to appear. So a learning module is a way of structuring your weekly and unit content with a table of contents. That's basically the same thing. If I go back, I also have the option, besides a learning module, is to do a folder structure. The folder structure, if you use a PC or any type of computer, mostly in terms of folders, it's very familiar to you. You click on it, and what will happen is that you put content in there, and it resides from top to bottom. So it's a more linear process than the table of contents of a learning module. It allows you to put things straight down the page. Now, one caveat to a folder is that the more stuff that you put, the longer the page gets. So if you're going to have multiple readings in a week, say you have 5 readings for the students, you will more than likely want to create a secondary folder inside of that folder that says readings, so that students aren't scrolling down to try to find readings. They'll actually have a folder that will say readings. And I'll go over that very briefly on how you would create those folders. Additionally, you can create links to content within Blackboard that already exists, and you can also link to tools inside of Blackboard, such as the discussion tool and any assignments or quizzes that you've created. So the goal of either the folder structure or the learning module structure is going to be that you are creating a single space for students to be able to come into for that week, and then all of their materials are right then and there. They don't have to go to various different places within Blackboard. They come into a specific space, and everything they need for that week is right then and there. And that will alleviate any of the navigation issues that students have, but it also will prevent students from not seeing materials, not accessing materials, and then also completing materials on time. That is the hope, and that actually tends to be what the research says, that when they come to a singular place, they're able to navigate. So one of the things in terms of building your class, the question is it's hard to see the arrow on a cell phone. So highly recommend that the Blackboard app doesn't really allow you to do much of the editing, but also using a phone or a tablet. And remember, faculty are the only ones who have the role to be able to see that downward arrow. We highly recommend that building content occurs on a computer. if you need to do it on the fly every once in a while to go to a tablet or an iPad or kind of thing like that, you might want to actually pinch up the screen on your browser, but the Blackboard tool was not intended, the build component or the faculty role component of building wasn't intended to be used in the browser to be able to build the class. In future versions of Blackboard, that might be the case. Oh, so students won't see that downward arrow on a phone because that's the privilege of the question is students have had the issue on the phone. What they might have an issue with is any like clicking buttons like the submit button, that kind of thing. But the downward arrow button for the most part is only on the faculty side. When you turn your edit mode off or you go into student view, you will notice that those arrows disappear. So students are often, if they're struggling with visible content, it usually is the buttons such as the submit button, those kind of things as well. They're usually dark colors, but if we have an example in the future, we will work to see how that happens. Oh, okay. So the question was from earlier when you were talking about the table of contents. So when in the table of contents here, you don't have, the arrow is referring to the area with the page flip, I think you're talking about. I think this is the only time students see an arrow. That might be visually a little bit more difficult, but that's also when students are able to click through the links, and also seeing the arrow on the phone if the screen is getting truncated. That's going to be where the students have to, unfortunately, because it wasn't intended to be seen through that. If students are having a difficulty using the web browser, the Blackboard app is free for the students to download, and they can use it. I have it on my personal phone to see how classes look. Students can use the Blackboard app. And that actually navigation was intended to use for a phone, and so students won't need to use the web browser. The deficit of that is that they have to download an app, but because it's academic, it will be a more stable and a better viewing process. And we can make sure that information about the app comes out. I would usually not have recommended the app in the past. I was not as happy with it, but I have actually been thoroughly impressed with the changes that they've made to it. Now, students are going to be able to submit materials, but it's still not the best environment for people to be writing papers on. They can complete discussions, that kind of thing like that, but we still really encourage people, if they're doing anything around PowerPoints or things like that, unless they're incredibly savvy, is to try to do some of the larger homework components. And that quizzes are incredibly difficult on the web browser as well. So quizzes in Blackboard, we still highly recommend that they maybe try to figure out if they can come to one of the labs and do that. And if you're interested in doing labs and knowing that your students are using mobiles, there are several question types that are better for mobile devices in terms of loading on phones than other question types, which we can talk about. And if you attend the quizzes, tests, surveys workshop, we'll also cover that briefly. Okay, so when you're in Blackboard, you're going to want to choose a learning module or a folder structure. Now, depending on your content, if you have your class as a weekly or a unit content, we highly recommend and strongly encourage you to stick with one format. Wouldn't go week one being a folder, what week one being a learning module. You want to just stick with one of them and build the class straight through that way. Also, that you're going to want, and I'm going to strongly encourage that with my edit mode on, is that you want to build a learning module out in the structure that you want it. So if you notice, we have these examples. The learning module here has a structure that says there's a welcome, there's a readings folder, there's a link to the discussion board, and then there's a link to exams and quizzes, as well as to assignments. So we encourage people to build out one kind of template learning module, and then you're going to be able to copy that structure every single week when you're building content. And so if you're building content, so you're building your class before the semester starts, you could build out a template learning module. It doesn't have to, it can be called the template learning module. You can hide it from your students, and then you can copy it over and over again and then just change the names. And then when you come in here, then your students are going to see a similar structure every week, and you can put all the content in the same place every week, and then that's going to cause a lot less confusion, easier navigation, and then you're going to also know that this is exactly where materials are, and you'll be able to see it yourself as instructors. So I'm going to briefly go over how one would create a learning module, as that we just gave you an example. Now, the cool thing is that these two things look different. Learning modules and folders look different when they're on the student side. So if I come to the student side, and this is using the student preview, I come over to my units. The students are going to see this course menu, and they're going to see that the content's going to show up, and they're going to be able to navigate through the tool. If they're going to use the folder structure, it's going to look like folders straight down the page. For you, when you're not in the student preview and you don't have edit mode off, you will have edit mode on. You will be able to create both folders and learning modules, and they're the exact same steps. The only difference is that when you're done and you've saved it, one will look down the page and one will look like a book, but they're the same instructions for both. So just, you will choose the structure that you want, and then you can replicate it. So I'm going to start off by coming to my course content folder. I'm going to come over onto this menu, and I'm going to choose under build content. I can have two ways to build my learning modules and my content folder. If I want to use learning modules, my first step is to go build content, learning module. If I want to do a folder, I do build content, content folder. So that's just to let you know, those are the two ways that you're going to start to build. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build out a content folder today. So what I'm going to do is build content. I'm going to go to content folder. When I click on content folder, I'm going to get a menu that lets me know, or that asks me what are the settings for this particular folder. I'm going to go ahead and say that this is my unit template, just because I'm going to have that available to myself. And then I can put text in here, and that's just going to be the text that shows up when the student sees it on the page. You don't have to have anything here, but you can go ahead and do that. The other thing that I sometimes like to do is I like to put in generic text like Unit X and then template. And when I go to copy this, I will copy it, and then I'll change the name to Unit 1, Introduction to the Class. I can put a description or a blurb here, or I can put nothing. Just a really quick aside, the first time you're going to use Blackboard, you're going to come in and you're going to see this box, and this box has one row. Then if you'd like to expand it out, you can go to the far right side and click where it says show more, or the two downward arrows, and you're going to get 3 rows of options in terms of creating content. This area allows you to create HTML based text, but you're going to write it like you're writing on a Word or a Google Doc. So for example, if I did want to say this chapter, and if I can type, is an introduction to the course and covers chapters 1 through 4 in the text book. And I'm actually going to say this unit because it's not this chapter. So that's just my little description of what this particular unit is. The content editor is going to allow me to do anything that pretty much a Word document would allow me to do. So if I wanted to bold this, if I wanted to highlight it, I could do all of that as well. I can also put web links in. I'll be able to do formatting. If I wanted this to be all centered, I could do that as well. Now, for descriptions and things like that, I'd keep it simple. I wouldn't go all crazy, but in a little bit when we're going to be building some other material, you might want to utilize some of the components of this. So if you're familiar with Word or you're familiar with Google Docs, a lot of these buttons will be very familiar to you, but if they are not, you can always scroll over a button and you will see a little tag that will say, for example, this says bold, this says italic, this says underline, this says strike through. very similar to your word processing programs, but it's also going to give you little kind of quick tags or tutorials for you to know exactly what it is. Now, the reason that this is really cool is because it's creating me little tiny web pages inside of my class and inside of here. And when I get to the later part of this presentation, it'll make sense why that's awesome. And as Mary said, is that it is called a WYSIWYG, and WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. So instead of you learning how to create HTML code, the system does it for you. And so I like to just show this, is that this says this unit is an introduction to the course and covers, covers chapter 1 through 4 of the textbook. If I click this button over here that says HTML, and I don't know, I think, Mary, this might not show up for me because I always run into this little problem. There we go. You'll see that it actually wrote HTML for you. So what you see is what you get. The system will create the HTML for you. It'll make it visible inside of Blackboard. It's editable in Blackboard, so you don't have to make a Google or a Word doc and turn it into a PDF or cut and paste anything. You can do that right here. Now, this is just the description of a folder, but you can also create documents inside of Blackboard, and this will automatically be there, and then it's editable in Blackboard. Anywhere you see this little editor, so I'm going to go ahead and update. I'm going to go ahead and share again my screen. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So the reason that I pause here is that this content editor shows up everywhere in Blackboard. It is in the discussion tool, the assignment tool. It's how you create individual pages. You can embed video and links into quizzes and assignments using this tool. So there's a variety of different reasons why this little tiny box would be really important for you to know. And it's going to be really important also as we continue on into this workshop. But I just wanted to let you know that you don't need to know any HTML, but if you use this tool, it's going to let you edit in Blackboard, and it's going to let you populate things right on the screen. I'm going to go make sure I lost my chat just to make sure I can catch what's going on. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go back to just making a folder. Sorry about that. So I'm in the folder. I got my title. I got my description. And I'm going to go ahead and I have standard options. Standard options show up everywhere in Blackboard. Standard options, standard availability, availability options. It's called a whole bunch of things. But basically, it's just what are the options for viewing the content. The very first line is always going to be pretty much hide or show. So the question is, permit users to view this content. If you say yes, students will immediately be able to see it if there are students in the course. And no, we'll hide it from them. It will permanently be hidden, and you have to come into this area, edit, and turn it back on. Otherwise, students will never see it. If you also would like to, and this is really important, especially for folders and learning modules, if you would like to have the availability of your content be shown on timers. So say you want week 1 to show up on Friday the 1st, you want week 2 to show up on Friday the 8th, week 3 to show up on Friday the 15th, and week 4 to show up on Friday the 22nd. You can actually put timing restrictions on this. It will display it after a certain date, and then it will display it until a certain date, and that's an and or. You don't have to have both. Most people actually will display after a certain date and then let it continue through the remainder of the course and not take away content from the students in terms of reading materials or viewable items. So in this case, I want this item to be seen, and it's going to track number of views. This is just for reporting purposes. If you want to see how many clicks are going to be on there, you can always turn this on, or you can turn it off. It's standard as no. And then if I want date and time restrictions, I can go ahead and put that in there. I'm going to go ahead and have a date and time restriction of 2:55 p.m. and I'm just going to leave display until alone. When I'm all set, just creating this, and again, we spend a lot of time just on the explanation part, but this is so much faster when you're doing it, you're going to go ahead and hit submit. So now I've created my template, and you'll see the availability language is going to tell me when it's going to be available. It's going to tell me that I enabled statistics tracking, and it's going to give me my little description. Now, if this is my template, I'm probably not going to put something about introductions and chapters in there. But in the future, when I want to change that, I can. Just to let you know, I'm going to go really quickly into the student view. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to come into course content, and you'll see that that is not displayed to the students. They only see those 3 areas that I already had prior to the session. Now at 2:54, if I refresh the page, as it should work, and Blackboard might not be seeing it at 2:54, I will be able to view this content. So let me go back on. I don't want to waste any more time. So I'm going to click back in here. I'm going to have course content. You'll see that it is still not available, and that's because I said 2:55, not 2:54. It's going to say that it's not available. If I want to make a copy, so this was the part. Hey, Kyle, you said I could copy this and make a bunch of them. Well, yes, you can, and this is how you're going to do it. So what you're going to want to do is on the, sorry, let me go through this. You're going to come to the title link that is available to you. The title link, as I said, to the right has a downward arrow. When you click on the downward arrow, you're going to get a contextual menu box, and that's what it's called, contextual menu. But you're going to get a menu, and your menu is going to let you do the very thing that is part of this workshop title. It's going to let you edit. It's going to let you create. It's going to let you copy, move, and delete. So this menu is really important, where if you want to create something, you're going to just automatically create it by selecting the item, and then after that, you can edit, copy, move it, and delete it to your heart's content using this menu. I'm going to go ahead and go to where it says copy, and I'm going to go ahead and click on copy, and then I'm going to be taken to this other menu. And you're like, Kyle, why can't I just copy it? Because there's a really awesome thing that I like about this is that it's going to let me copy it into any class I'm an instructor in. So say I want to actually copy something that I built in a class, but I'm teaching a totally different class, but the information is a primer or an introduction to the department or anything like that. Or if I'm co-teaching with somebody and we want to share materials across classes, I can also copy and move materials from classes to classes. So that's why this window shows up, because it needs to know exactly where you might want it, and it wants to not limit you on where you can put it. So as long as you're enrolled as a faculty in a class, you will be able to move content or copy content to wherever. Now, I asked for it to copy it because I'm copying my template over. I don't want to move it, I just want to make a copy of it. So my destination course is going to stay the same, but if I was in any other course, I could go ahead and move this or copy, make a copy and send it there instead. It's going to ask me where my destination folder is. Now this is going to not show up for you right away on the share part, so I'm going to have to come over here. It's going to give me my menu for this class, and you'll see here that I was in my course content. I was in my folder, and I want to move this to where it says course content here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on course content. It's going to then also make me a duplicate, and I'm going to share my screen again and say okay. Oh, nope. That was way too much of my screen, I think. Okay. I'm going to choose that I want to move it to my course content, and I want to make a copy. I want to copy links and attach embedded files, or I want to include links and make copies of attached embedded files. I always like to choose the second one because it basically includes all of the links and makes copies of everything. It's not actually pulling from another space. So I'm going to go ahead and hit on submit, and now you will see that I have a second copy of my template. Now the second copy is, yes, named the same, but because it's the same label, now what I can do is come into the downward arrow again and click on edit. And then now I'm going to say unit, now I'm going to say unit 1 because I can, and then I'm going to say introduction to the class and to the course. And I'm going to learn how to spell check, and then that's relevant right there. And then I hit submit. Now what I've done is I have my units, and I can just keep coming to my template over and over and over again and doing it. What I usually tell people is build your template, make one copy, and then see if you really like it. Because if you change your mind and you start building unit 1 and you get to unit 2 and you're like, oh, I don't like how I set this up, then you're kind of not really happy. Now, if I want to start adding things to my template or changing things up, I can come back here to build content, and I can add content folder. So if I wanted to have a readings folder, I can add a readings folder. and I'm just going to hit submit. I don't need anything else because it's just a readings folder. If I want to have a link to another piece of material, which will be another workshop, I can come to the assessments area and I can create a link from an assignment or create an assignment here, or I can link from a survey or a test, or I can link something from Blackboard inside of there. So I can start to build my template out by actually creating links. One of the really cool tools that I like to use is because I don't like students to go too many places, so I tend to I build my class on the course menu, and then I just link to the course menu every time. If you want to actually link to that discussions link that's over on the course menu, I come to build content, and then I come to course link. And what I do is it's actually going to give me my course menu again, and I just do the share thing change. And now it's going to give me my entire course and all of its layout. And I can either I could actually just pull content in. So if I had a document that I wanted to just pull from and I didn't want to make a copy of it, I just create a new link to it. But if I wanted, in this circumstance, to go to my discussion board and have my discussion board available, I can come here to where it says discussion board. Or I could come to any other, the welcome, course content, course information, but I want to come to the discussion board. And now I'm going to hit submit. And when I do that, this will just be another pause. Sorry about that. So all I did was hit submit. Now there's a link to the discussion board, build content, course link, and now it's going to put a link right there. If I wanted to create a link to where I put all my assignments in the assignments link, I'm going to come to build assignments. I'm going to do course link. I'm going to browse again. I'm not going to show you this menu, but I'm going to select the assignment just like I did the discussions. And I'm going to hit submit again. And now you'll see the links to my discussions and my assignments are in my weekly unit. Now the cool thing is that if I copy this template over again, it's going to copy too. So again, I can just go ahead and not from this. I always have to copy from the main course content area. So you'll see here that I have this template. That's where these all start. And now I'm going to go ahead and click on copy again. I'm going to browse. So I get that little menu again. I'm going to put it in my course content. So now I have a third one. I have a third content, and you'll see, ta-da, all of those links that I created in my template are now existing here, and I don't have to do any extra work. On this part, how do I do other stuff? Okay, so you're thinking, okay, Kyle, show me something else. So now I'm going to show you other stuff on the build content area. So what will happen here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just delete one of these just to clean this up. It's going to say, what do I want to do? Now, I'm like, okay, I got my unit 1, I got my introduction into the course. Now, I'm going to click into here, and I don't have anything, because you know what I did? I accidentally copied the other one with all the links on it before. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back here. I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to copy the want to, because I really don't want to mess with my template. I really want to make sure that my template stays as it is and I'm happy with it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit this. I'm going to call this my introduction to the week, so I know which one I'm going to delete. I'm still going to call it 1. And I'm going to hit submit. Now, just also as a quick reminder, you did notice that the date little thing said this isn't available for students. It's gone. That's because the students can see it now. So you don't see that language. This is all available. Oh my goodness, Kyle, how do I know if it's not available or available? It's going to say that it is. Or this little icon, if you can see it, is going to be grayed out, meaning it's not available, and it becomes fully visible and very bold if it is available. So that's also a visual cue for you. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this introduction to the course week just to get it off my plate of screen. And I'm going to come into my introduction to the week. So I have readings, I have a discussion board, and I have assignments. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you a couple things that you can start doing in Blackboard in terms of adding content. Now, the two biggest things people will want to do is they will want to either create an item in Blackboard that they can edit, or they will want to upload a file. And conveniently, you'll see these two words, and I'm giving you your mnemonic devices of you're going to create an item or you're going to upload a file. If you create an item, it's editable in Blackboard because you created it. If you uploaded a file, a PowerPoint, a Word, a PDF, any of that stuff, you have to edit it someplace else because it's not an item. So you edit an item and you create a file. You upload a file. Yeah. Okay. I always mess up that last part. I'm like brilliant and then I'm not. So you're going to create an item. So this is going to look kind of familiar. I'm going to click on Build Content, Create Item or Item, and I'm going to come to, oh my goodness, I'm going to come to that text box editor again. I'm going to click on the name and I'm going to go ahead and say, welcome to week 1. Now, a very common thing in online classes, as well as just in general when you're using Blackboard, is you're going to want to put a little introduction blurb. It can be short. It can be an introduction to the content. It can be a summary of what is due and what they need to do. It can also be something that you write on the fly every week to bring in last week's content and tie in this week's content to last week's. It's a very important thing, especially on a welcome. It's because it's the first thing that students see. And so if there's anything that you really need them to know, that welcome is going to be it. Yes, they'll get announcements, and yes, you can send them emails. But when they go into this place, this is the first thing they see. So if the first thing they see is a PDF or a reading or a journal or whatever, and they don't really know what they're doing, they're going to get lost. So having a welcome each week also lets you prioritize the very first thing that they see. Now, I'm going to say that it's, welcome to the course. Here's, in this unit, we will cover the fundamentals of the topic and start to discuss terminology and important concepts. And I'm going to fix all my spelling errors. So fundamental and important. I see that there is a chat thing here. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. So one of the things in terms of like exporting the content that you create inside Blackboard, some of that stuff is going to be able to be exported, some of it's not. However, some of the materials that you create, depending on where it resides, we usually do what we call course mapping or course outline. So a lot of this language appears on another document anyways. You can cut and paste into the text editor here if you want to. I generally don't recommend to people, unless you're doing something like a welcome or a really brief thing, to do a lot of on the fly. Like I wouldn't sit in front of Blackboard and create your welcome lecture inside of an item, mostly because the system does time out after 2 hours. It's not the most easy interface to do graphics or design kind of stuff as well if you wanted to do PowerPoints and slides. But this content editor is really great for you being able to build some small unit materials as well. So I usually say that you'll be able to put things into other materials, yes. Now, Blackboard as a whole does allow you to export to other learning management systems, but none of the learning management systems really work well with each other. There are some universal standards for exporting content, but I'm just going to be honest with you. There's always extra work and cleanup that comes with it. So I don't want you to think that you can go to another LMS with your Blackboard materials and it be readily available. You could go to another Blackboard with some of your materials, and that would be easy. But if you're going to other learning management systems and vice versa, if you're bringing something here, it's going to be a bit of work rebuilding and restructuring things, because it would be like trying to put something, make a PowerPoint look like Word and then putting it into Excel. They just don't all look and have the same functionality. So I'm going to go back to this. So I'm creating an item, and it's my welcome, and it's a little quick blurb. And so I've used my WYSIWYG, and I'm just going to go ahead and leave this. But if I wanted to do, say, a web link to something, like say I wanted to do something to the STIC website, I can go ahead and do the STCC website. I'm going to type that in here, and then I'm going to highlight my text that I want it to be. I'm going to come over to this button that looks like a little link, and it says Insert and Edit Link. And I'm going to get a really big window that appears, and it actually is the Insert Edit Link window. And I can go ahead and do HTTP, sorry, is it just HTTP? and and I have to do the exterior thing. I have to put the HTTPS on there, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put the website in. And then, just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to choose to open it in a window. I don't want it to roll over this window. I want it to open in a new tab. That's going to be personal preference. And also that if your students get confused, you can always reverse this back. But for example, I'm just going to say open in a new window. And then the title is going to be the STC website. This is really helpful, especially for screen readers, to put some type of title there so that they have some indicator. I'm going to go ahead and do insert, and now, after I fix my sharing, I'm not going to leave that. Now you're going to see that the STCC website is there, and so I can do that. I also have the ability to insert images. I'll show you in a second how to do mashups and that kind of thing as well. I do want to stress to you that we really do not recommend that you put home-created videos. Blackboard is not a video server, and that if you put a video that you recorded on your phone or on your computer and you put it directly into Blackboard, it will slow it down and it will cause playback issues. And I can guarantee it'll play back issues because it's not a media server, because it's not a YouTube or Vimeo or any of those things. Those things have really integrated video servers, and they're meant for streaming, and they're meant to manage video, the load of a video playing. We highly recommend that you use another form of video service, and everybody has a YouTube account here at STIC. So we really encourage people to go ahead and create a YouTube channel and put that up, and then you can link to your videos here, and I can show that to you very shortly how you would do that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my STIC link in there, and I'm going to let that be, and this is just going to be my welcome for now. So sorry, my chat keeps closing. And so yes, so you can activate a YouTube account for STIC by going over to the 9 little dash buttons and clicking on there. And if you want assistance on that, we can help you out with that as well. So yes, you have one that is associated with your Gmail account, as Mary in the chat has said. So yes, so now you see here, I got a welcome to the week, and I got readings and a discussion board links and the links to my assignments that I haven't created and my discussions that I haven't created, which I do have discussions. But in Blackboard, you can move stuff within the windows without having to do that move button by simply putting your cursor over where you start to get the cross symbol and when it turns yellow. And when you do that, you can move your content within the window anywhere you want, and so you'll see that it will land. So now you're going to see a welcome, a readings, discussions, and assignments. Now, if I want to upload readings, I'm going to come into my readings folder, and this is where I'm going to come to File. Build Content, File, and now it's going to ask me to go look somewhere else on my computer or even in my class, and I'm going to try to find a presentation or a PowerPoint. Yes, so I'm going to go ahead and look on my thing, and I have a whole bunch of random stuff that I put here to try to do. Sample rubric. Do I have just a PDF of? There we go. So I'm just going to put a PDF and say it's a reading. So I found this document that I wanted to put in my class. I'm going to say open. It's going to show it here. I'm going to say that this is the rubric, and it's the weekly blog example. And file options, do I want it to open in a new window? Yes or no. Do I want it to appear? I'm using a file, so I'm fine with it opening not in a new window and just taking over this page. I'll show you what that looks like. And then permit users to view and then do their date and time restrictions. So that's all the stuff that you can select. I'm going to make it available. And now that's going to be available when students click on it, and it's going to be in my readings folder. So I'm going to come back to my Unit 1. I have my welcome. I have my readings, discussions, and assignments link, and when I click on readings, one of the readings is located here. And all I had to do was come to build content and click on file. Okay, so what also might I have in my class? Well, okay, so I have a welcome and I have readings, but I also might have something like multimedia or content to view. So I'm going to go ahead and create another content folder, and I'm actually going to call this multimedia and digital resources or digital materials. So it can be web links, or it can be whatever. I can also just say multimedia and web links. that's a little easier and it might make more sense to students than digital materials. But so again, I have multimedia and I have web links. So I have a couple options here. Multimedia. I'm going to do web links first. So say I want to have a web link and I want to actually explain it. Now this works in content folders, but because of the nature of learning modules, you won't be able to put a description on a web link. But if I wanted to put a web link and then have a description, I can come to build content and I can select what says web link. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on, I'm going to say STCC website again. I'm so boring on this one. And I'm going to type in my URL again. And you can cut and paste. You don't have to sit here and type these in. But I just do this because I obviously can remember that one. And then I can type a description. This is the college's website. You should visit it and familiarize yourself with its content. Looking at it says it's a thing and website and submit. So now that website is there. So students should come to this website and look. If you're teaching something else, a discipline specific website, a particular article you want them to read, you just need to have that. It's a web-based article. If say I want to find a YouTube video. Now I can find a YouTube video or I can search for one. If I'm in Blackboard and I don't have a YouTube video, but I want to see what's out there, I can come to what are called mashups. I'm going to come to build content. I'm going to come over to where it says mashups, and I have three major options: Flickr, SlideShare, and YouTube. Flickr is a photo sharing website. SlideShare is basically a PowerPoint slide sharing website, SlideShare. And YouTube is going to be where all sorts of cat videos and instructional information and potentially academic relevant content is located. Flickr, SlideShare, and YouTube allow you to do what is called Creative Commons, which people will create materials that are freely and accessible. And so going through Blackboard allows you to know that the materials you're getting here have been selected to be freely used for Creative Commons. If it isn't, it doesn't show up in their list of things to find. And I say this because sometimes people will be looking for a particular video that they can't find, but the person who shared the video did not give express permissions that anyone could use it. And that's why you can't always find it here. But this is a way that you don't have a clue. You don't have a video, you don't already have a photo selected, a SlideShare presentation. You don't have a YouTube video that you're looking for. So you're going to come to the mashups. So again, build content, scroll to where, or listen to where you hear YouTube video, and you're going to come to where it says search for video. In the search box, you're going to click on something. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. I just try to, I ended up doing this. So introduction to sociology. I'm going to just take that topic and I'm going to do go. Now, the more narrower the search, the less videos you will find. And I say this because I just chose a topic which might in itself have 566,505 results. That might not narrow me down. But if you look on here, it's going to show me a video and it's going to tell me what is it, and it's going to give you a little description. And you can go through and look through these videos and see if this is what you would like. But if you're looking to a specific one, so like if I did sociology, I don't even know if this is going to be looking class theory. Let's see if it finds anything for this. That would be long. Okay. So Charles Cooley, Looking Glass Theory, Individuals in Society. So there's a con video on this, or Looking Glass Self. So sociology, kind of thing like that. So you could go ahead, and this is going to be, it actually says that it's Khan Academy. I don't know why exactly on YouTube, but I can go ahead and select this video. This video is going to let me also put a description to it of what I want you to watch, look at. I can tell you what number of times that, like what moment in the video that I want to choose. I can do that as well. If I wanted to actually watch this video ahead of time, I can also go ahead and click on a new tab and I can watch it just to make sure that's what I'm looking for. But I could just put text here. Okay. Then my mashup options are, do I want a thumbnail, which is a little tiny view? Do I want just a link, and then when it clicks on it, a player shows up, or do I want to embed the video? Now, embedding the video puts it right in the screen, and that's really cool, but also, depending on your personal preference, you have other ways to do that. I'm going to go ahead and just do the, last time I did thumbnail, and I've done the embed link. This time I'm just going to do text link with player, so you see what that looks like. You can show the YouTube URL if, in case you're worried that students might not see it on the screen. So this will just let them go right to YouTube if you want. I'm just gonna say yes. And then I still, again, have my standard / availability / options viewing to that. I'm gonna go ahead and I can click on preview, and this is gonna show me what it would look like. So it actually has the little video, it says watch video. That I don't really like. I don't like how that layout goes. So I'm going to go ahead and change my mind, but because I previewed it, I did not, except I actually hit the back button. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to change this, and I'm going to embed the video. So now when I preview it, this is what people will see. They will see a video that they can play right from YouTube into your Blackboard class, and you'll have your information in there. And I think I might have accidentally lost my text. So text here again. All right, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm okay with all of this. It shows my embed video, and I'm going to submit. So now my video is in my folder, and when students come here, they're going to see the STC website and my multimedia and web links, and now they see a video, and it plays right in the screen. Okay, so the other option that I have in terms of finding video content, I can also go directly to a website. I can go to a TED Talk, I can go to YouTube, I can go to a web-based, if I was on a news site and they had this, I'll show you a really quick trick. So I'm going to go ahead and hopefully this just shows up. I'm going to go to YouTube. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look up that looking glass there. Looking glass self. And I'm going to type that in, and I'm going to see. And you'll see that this video was approved, so it's also going to be there. But say I have this video here, and I decide that I want to watch this. I'm going to go ahead, and I don't really want to answer your questions, just to let you know. So I might not want to use that because there's a question in it or a YouTube thing. That might be part of the broadcasters, or that just might be part of YouTube. Just be prepared for that. But anytime you're in a video program, usually you will see a share button. That share button lets you share it to Facebook and Twitter and Google, but it also lets you copy the link directly. So you could put the link in Blackboard, which a lot of people do. However, you can also click on the embed link, and the embed link is going to let you play your video in that box. So you can go ahead and highlight the text there, unless, does it say it? Sometimes it just gives you a copy button. But I'm going to highlight all of the text. Now, really quick, if say you're watching this video and you only want them to watch from minute 2 on, you can actually click this button here and have them not start watching it till minute 50 seconds. And then what will happen is that it's going to not start the video until 50 seconds. It's going to start the video at 50 seconds and ignore the first part. So that's also if you're trying to make it more educationally relevant. I only want to watch from 50 seconds on. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a range. It's not that smart. It's not going to do 50 seconds to 54 seconds, but it'll start you at least late if you don't want the whole other stuff going on there. You usually want to go ahead and do player controls, and then you do have the right to enable privacy enhanced mode, which just, if you click on the link, it's actually going to say that it doesn't share information what you're viewing with advertisers and all that stuff like that. I believe that's what privacy enhanced. You could do that or not do that. I'm not quite sure what you would do. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and it actually really weird when I just did that. So hopefully this works. So I've got this, I've copied and pasted, I'm copying this code. I'm going to come back into Blackboard, and just as I did before, I'm going to come to build content. And again, I'm creating it in Blackboard, so I'm going to come to create item. I'm going to go ahead and say looking glass self. And I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to come to that HTML button that I showed you earlier. I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to come to this box and I'm just going to go ahead and paste in that code. I'm going to click on update. I'm going to share my window again. Otherwise, you have to see a really big screen, so I have to keep shutting and stopping it. Now it's going to tell you that you have your video here. Two other quick tricks about Blackboard. The little bottom of your text editor expands out. So if you're running out of just a little room, that's a really big video box there. Or I can go ahead and right next to the expand button for my text editor, I can click on this and it's going to give me my full screen. Now, I don't know if that's not necessarily going to be the size of the video, but if I changed my mind, I could always come into the HTML code and I could make the video smaller if I wanted to, but it's probably going to be average size. It's just really big on this screen. So then if you use embedding and then you use an item, what it will also let you do is that you can type why you are watching the video, just like the other one. But this way, you're going to get a very clean embed of your video and then other additional text. So they're both the same. If you wanted to attach, say, a reading guideline, or if it was your own video that you made and you wanted students to have the PowerPoint of it, or if you wanted to give them homework where they had to watch a video and then complete the homework while they watch the video, you can also attach files from any place. You could also link to anything inside of this areas again, just as we did with the STIC website. I'm going to go ahead and click on submit, and now you see it. The video is embedded, it's here, and then you can click on, and if you see, it started at 50 seconds, already playing into the video. So if I didn't want them to start all at the beginning, it kicked in. So again, I'm going to do that really quickly. I want to reload the page so it does it again. And if you'll notice, I hit it 50 seconds. Okay, so for our workshop today, this is just the basic primers of everything. The last thing I do want to share with you, and this is the one that you're going to be careful about, is that not only have we learned to create, and not only could you edit if you wanted to, but you can also delete. Yeah, deleting is permanent. There is no trash. It's a thing in Blackboard. I know people sometimes are annoyed. A lot of LMSs don't have it. And the reason I say this is that if you could imagine how many people across this campus are deleting things at any given time, it is the biggest trash bin you've ever seen. And because you can't empty your trash out, well, no one can empty the trash out, someone else does. So the system does it. So it's actually a weird computery kind of timey-wimey kind of thing of why there is no actual trash in Blackboard, but it's also why I say be very careful when you delete. So you often get several reminders to not delete things, but you have the power to delete things. So if you don't like something, you don't have to keep it. But you also could always just come to edit, and you can always just hide it by saying it's not available. So I think that that's pretty much everything that I covered. Web links, you can do images, same principle. If you're in build content, you can do images, that's okay, we're cool with that. The videos are the thing. They basically make your class really, really big, like bloated up, and then it makes it really hard, and then bugs happen. And it's kind of like, having a lot of extra stuff around, and then little things can kind of start to not work right. And there's no video player, and it makes your students have to use their web browser and their own computer with video player, and then we go into chaos. So yeah, so you can upload web links and images, you can create your own files, you can upload files that you've already created from other places like Google's, Apple materials, if you have an Apple computer, or other websites, and you can always link to other things in Blackboard. You can use the Creative Commons Flickr SlideShare and YouTube mashup if you would like to. And but we just ask, just embed some videos, just do the links. That's probably the only thing that we'll say, please don't. So I've covered everything that I was going to cover. I know that our participant has been very, very enthusiastic and responding in there, and I've seen that Mary has been responding to that. So that's the end of this presentation, and I thank you very much. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. And thank you very much for visiting. And if you have any other questions, we're going to stay around for the people here, and I'm going to leave. So thank you very much and have a great day.